Okay, hi. So today we're going to look at completing the square. And we're going to look at it in two methods. We're going to look at a geometric method and then an algebraic method, which is probably how you've been taught it when you've done it at school. So we'll look at both ways and you can use whichever one you find easier. So let's take a simple one first. So we're going to try complete the square for x squared plus 4x plus 6. All right, and we're going to look at it geometric, like with a square, so geometrically, so geometric method, and we'll look at your algebraic method. Okay, so if we look at it geometrically, the way to start with this is you draw a square, because you're trying to end up with a square. So you draw yourself a square. Mine probably doesn't look like a square, but it's theoretically a square. And then you split this square up. So in this square, you're going to have x squared. So this is x squared. So we know we get x squared from x times x. And then the 4x gets shared between two rectangles. So we're going to have like this. So we're going to say this is already x, so this must be 2. So this is 2x, and this one is also 2x. I haven't drawn it to scale. And if this is x along, then this must also be 2. And then you're left with a box there. And because you want a perfect square, that box is going to be the same as 2 times 2. So 2 times 2 is going to give you 4. So you're going to get 4 there. And so now you've effectively completed the square. Along the top, you've got x plus 2. Here we've got x plus 2. So together, that's going to give you x plus 2 all squared. But that gives you x squared plus 4x plus 4. Now we don't want that. We want plus 6. So we need an extra plus 2. And you've completed the square for that expression. Let's have a look at it algebraically. So algebraically, we start off with x squared plus 4x plus 6. And all we do is we take whatever's in front of the x and we half it. So if we take this value and we divide it by 2. So we're going to get x plus 2 all squared. Next step, we take this value and we square it. So when we square 2, we get 4 and we take that away. And then we've got add 6. And when we clean it up, we get to exactly the same place. I think geometrically, I prefer seeing it, but it doesn't matter which method you use because the answer you get is identical. Now let's see what happens if we put a number in front. So let's have a look if we have, for example, 2x squared plus 6x plus 10. Right, now when we want to complete the square, we first want to get the number x squared on its own. So we get the 2 outside. So we're going to get x squared, 3x, and then half of 2, which is 5. Okay, half of 10, sorry, which is 5. And now this is a bit trickier because to split 3 is a little bit trickier, but it's the same logic. So you're going to draw your box, your square, you're going to have your x squared. So for the moment, you ignore the 2 on the outside, you've got x times x, which gives you your x squared. In order to split 3x, it's going to be 1.5 times x, and you've got another 1.5 times x. And then you're left with 1.5 times 1.5, which will give you 2.25 or 9 over 4. Probably should have stuck to fractions everywhere. So let's stick to the fractions. 3 over 2, that's easier to see as well. And now we've got the sides again as a perfect square. So we've got x plus 3 over 2 all squared, but now we've got 9 over 4. Now we don't want 9 over 4, we want 5. So 5 minus 9 over 4 is going to give you 11 over 4, because that's how much extra we need. But that's just the bit in the middle. What we now need to do is multiply this whole thing by 2. So our final answer is therefore 2x plus 3 over 2 squared plus 11 over 2. Okay, algebraically, exactly the same. You're going to take the 2 outside to start with. And then you're going to complete the square for this bit. So that gives you x plus half the 3. So we get 3 over 2, all squared, minus this value squared. So then minus this gives you 9 over 4 plus 5. Clean that up. X plus 3 over 2 squared plus 11 over 4. And don't forget to multiply the whole thing by 2. So you could go back afterwards and put these big square brackets in. However you choose to remember, you've got to go back and do that. Plus 11 over 2. So that's essentially completing the square in a nutshell. If you need to think of it as a square, I think that's a little bit easier. And now also what I'd like to show you is how you use your calculator, especially when you get to AS and you have a calculator, how your calculator can help you complete the square. So you'll probably have your class whiz calculator, and I'm going to take you through how you do that. If you give me a second to open up my visualizer so you can see it. Okay. So I'm hoping now that you can see my calculator. And what we're going to do is we're going to take that same equation that we had, which was x squared plus 4x plus 6. And what you're going to do in your calculator is you're going to go to menu. Okay, menu. You're going to go down. You're going to go to equation function and press equal sign. Then you're going to go to polynomial. It's degree 2 because it's x squared. You're going to plug 1x squared, 4x, and then you've got 6 and hit equals. This gives you solutions. You don't need to worry about that. Keep pressing that down button. Press it again, and you get the minimum point. Now, what the minimum point represents is this bit here. So it's the bit that makes this bracket 0. So you know that must be a +2. And then the y is going to give you your number on the outside. Okay, let's take the other example. I can't remember what we did, but say we take 2x squared plus 6x plus 10, I think it was. Right, so I'm going to go back, go to A again, polynomial 2. We're going to put 2, 6, and 10 in. Now, we're not going to worry about this again. These gives you the solutions. Right, so we've got a minimum. So we know inside this bracket, we're going to have plus 3 over 2 squared. And then we've got plus 11 over 2. The bit that this doesn't tell you is that you need that 2 in the front. So that's a way to check once you've completed the square on your calculator. We'll do a lesson later where we take exam questions and how that then relates and what it means, because completing the square helps you find the minimum point, draw quadratics. But for the moment, this is just a quick summary of completing the square. Add any questions you have on the bottom, and I'll pick out a selection of level 8, 9 GCSE questions and some AS Maths questions. And we shall go through those before the end of today. I'll do a video on them before today, at the end of today. I hope that was useful.